Welcome to another episode of the A.K.A. podcast. A.K.A. the podcast where we ask questions like, should Barca just leave the pitch the next time we have 3 VAR decisions go against us? Does the Prem need a salary cap? And is Vinny as finished as Karam's Popeyes sandwich?
I
How
feel
is the Popeyes Karam?
Popeye sandwich? I don't know.
Oh, it's
I think
half finished. He just took a
it's
huge
finished.
bite.
Oh, you finished
Yeah.
it. It's impressive.
And didn't just finish it. He killed it. Okay, I feel like the first thing we should talk about is probably that crazy AFCON final. So, the final is between Senegal and Morocco. The tournament was hosted in Morocco. Senegal ended up winning 1-0 after extra time, but all the drama happened leading up to extra time, where in the 94th, 95th minute, Morocco was awarded a penalty. The score was tied 0-0. And in protest, Senegal pretty much left the pitch. Well, the entire protest was probably 10 minutes?
Yep.
And they left the pitch for part of that as well. So, I mean, AFCON is just the gift that keeps on giving, guys.
No, this pissed me off. Listen, if you want to go watch reality TV and you enjoyed what they did, go watch some Kardashians. Okay, this is the first thing. If you want to watch football, there's no place for that. In basketball, you step out the court, you lost.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah,
but it's a
they should have been
true-
disqualified.
I completely, 1,000% believe that lots of the decisions went against Senegal. I thought their goal should have stood. I thought the penalty shouldn't have been given. No matter what, if Bayern Munich walked off the pitch when Real Madrid were shagging them, then we're going to just start doing that. We're going to add extra pressure, bro.
Yeah, you just can't. You just can't. It's just not how the game is supposed to be played. Even when things go against you, tons of teams have issues and they protest, and maybe they waste like a couple minutes before the penalty protesting, getting yellow cards and everything. But walking off the pitch and having players like bench players come on the pitch, all that stuff should have much higher punishment.
Yeah, I mean, the only times where I think it's acceptable, and this has kind of been, this is the precedent before this, is that you only walk off the pitch if racism is happening or something extreme like that,
Yeah.
right? Or the players are in danger from the fans. You don't walk off for anything football related, right?
Right.
And like Karam mentioned, I also think that. Look, I feel like Senegal were getting hard done by. Something that, Karam mentioned right now, you didn't actually mention, which is that they also had the goal disallowed a couple of minutes before that. But again, that's all football decisions. I mean, I think they were dodgy, but it's football decision at the end of the day.
So for that, yeah, I mean, and that definitely played into their decision because I just went through and watched the those 10 minutes alone again to see how people were acting, and they kept referencing the other side of the pitch, definitely referencing the disallowed goal, and then the Moroccan manager even gestured that the ref had whistled prior to the ball going in. So his point was that it wasn't like some kind of big scandal or cheating scandal where it's like, oh, there was a goal, so I'm going to blow the whistle for a foul. He blew the whistle for the foul, and then the ball went in. I don't think it was just what he saw in real time.
Yeah, I just think frustration builds up because in those cases VAR can't happen. Because if the goal was, or if you call, of course, before, which I guess in lots of cases, in my opinion, if something as soft as that occurs, that's why we have VAR in these stuff. And we'll even get into the Barcelona game about VAR kind of screwing us. But I even want to say this. This is what Mane said after the game, because Mane was the only one to actually take a stand and stay on the pitch. He said, because the referee can make a mistake, it's not fair to judge him. And most importantly, I did it for the people in the whole world. They wanted to watch the game. It's as simple as that. The referee can make a mistake. You know what I mean?
But I mean, Mane as the best player on that team and as their captain should be able to have more of an influence on the team. It wasn't like he was trying that hard to keep them on the pitch, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if your coach literally signals to everyone to go off the pitch, Mendy, for example, is already extremely frustrated and already going into protest. Of course, if they're already angry, it's really hard to listen to the reasonable Mane instead of your absolute coach that's going mental. You know what I mean?
Right, and at the end of the day, Mane is the one that eventually got them back, right?
Yeah, he is. He's the one that demanded.
The one that went to the locker room and convinced them to come back and play.
Screaming for them to come back in, and so it's the coach. The coach is the one that ignited them to walk off the pitch. It wasn't just some set of players. I mean, the biggest part of it all, and the hardest part to wrap my head around. We haven't even mentioned There was virtually no punishment. Nothing. If a keeper
Yeah.
wastes
I'd argue they got rewarded for it, not even just no punishment,
now,
right? Because
Brahim
that's what
Diaz is an idiot.
that's how the yeah. I mean, that's how the pressure builds on Brahim, right?
Yeah,
Like, I'm not sure if he'd do the Panenka if they hadn't been like essentially rage baiting him, right? Like
right.
essentially he was rage baited
Yeah.
into doing the Panenka, right?
Well, there are tactics that people do in order to try and like delay the penalty and put as much pressure on the penalty taker as possible. And it felt like this was that taken to an extreme. But there are certain things that obviously should not be allowed, and it's the ref's fault. He needs to put his foot down and say
What I will,
there's like this is
yeah.
a disqualifying kind of offense, you know.
What
And
I'll
I think
say is that
disqualifying the team is not extreme in this case. Like I think that is something that he should have at least threatened, you know.
what I will say though is I'm not sure if the ref has the capability to directly say I disqualify a team. Like I don't think like is he possible to just be like no this team loses like is that within his
Who else is going to have that
it has to be
power,
from
you
some
know?
AFCON higher authority.
See, this is exactly what I was gonna ask or bring up, which is that don't you guys feel that Senegal kind of took advantage of the occasion? So like I feel like if this
Yeah.
game was much like a much lesser game, maybe a friendly, something like this, the ref would have the authority to be able to call off the game. But I feel like they know that this is the AFCON file. They know it's in Maghreb, in Morocco. Like and my friend brought this up as well, which is that I don't think Morocco necessarily wants Senegal to be disqualified because for them it's also like a big like shame, like this whole tournament, and then at the end, the finals ends in an abandoned match. Like that's
Yeah.
also
At
something
that
they're almost taking advantage of the situation. They
yeah,
know that they can't
they are,
just
but my opinion is that at the end of the day, the whole point in sports, or one of the things that attract me to sports in general, is that there's a set rules, and there's a set winner and a set loser, and there are certain things that things need that a way that things need to be done. Like, yes, there are some arguments over is this a foul, is this not a foul, but at the end of the day there's a rule book, and it's kind of like a microcosm for life, but within like a very like set dimensions and a set rule book. And so I feel like you just need to apply the rule of the law in these situations, and I guarantee you there is a process for what happens if a team leaves the pitch, and I wouldn't be surprised if that process is that team is disqualified. And I think that regardless of the occasion, you have to just follow the rules, otherwise this is how chaos happens, right? When you
right,
just
right. I
like
mean, this is
treat
setting a
every
very
situation as subjective, you know.
right. This is setting a very dangerous precedent, in my opinion. What's stopping in the finals of the Champions League? I know extreme, right? Because it's AFCON, right? It's not the same. But what's stopping a team from walking off the pitch if they feel hard done by in the last second?
So actually, the precedent here, or the only other time I've heard of something like this happening in
Quit.
football was during the, I think it was a World Cup in the 70s or the 80s, where Kuwait was losing like 5-0 to France, and then in protest for a goal going in after the Kuwaiti players had stopped playing because they believed they heard a whistle that I believe was coming from the stands, the not the coach but the head of the Kuwaiti association came down and told them to leave the pitch. But the
Yep.
difference is that at that point it was already like 5-0, and
Yeah, it
so
was
they just
4-1.
waited for them to come back on, and then they finished the game. It's like it had
Right,
no impact on
right.
anything. In fact, disqualifying, I don't even know how that would work because usually it's like a 3-0
Right,
disqualification or
right.
whatever.
I mean, dude,
But
AFCON always has some weird things every year, dude. Like even last year, I remember a match for Tunisia where the ref like blew 7 minutes ahead of full time.
He was tired.
yeah, that was
Right.
really weird.
And
Yeah.
then then they came back on the
I
pitch and he
remember.
still whistled like 30 seconds before full time.
What I'll add on as well is just so it doesn't seem like I'm only attacking the way that the Senegalese players acted. There was also this weird thing with the Moroccan players repeatedly and ball boys stealing the
Yeah,
towels of Edouard Mendy repeatedly, and
I saw
it
that.
came a lot from the ultras who kept repeatedly. There's even a clip of them screaming at Hakimi to throw away the towel, and Hakimi looks very confused, and then he repeatedly they keep screaming at Hakimi, throw it, and eventually Hakimi throws it. Not just that, the ball
Yeah.
boys from Morocco chased down a Senegalese bench player who was
second.
protecting the towel for Edouard Mendy, and they kept on trying to throw it away, as in not throw it away off,
Right.
throw it away from Mendy, steal it, which is like, again, what is this? Like, both teams, like, it's just like a lack of control from the ref.
Right.
Like, I thought you'd
And
be
also-
having red cards.
Right, and also like just to give the full context, I had also heard, I'm not like 100% sure on this, but I'm pretty sure like there's no reason to lie about this. Apparently, before the game, they were meant to train at a facility right next to like the Moroccan FA, right? And they had not given the Senegalese team like any security, and apparently they had to like push through fans to get to training.
Yeah.
So I feel like
This
all
is
of this is kind of like tension that builds up, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
for
it
the match.
definitely builds up, and this is what I was trying to say, where it's like if you let certain things go or you don't enforce the rules, like I'm not a huge person of like rules in day-to-day life. I'm not trying to be like come off as like this anal like rules-oriented person, but I think in sports it's extremely important, and that's what I think attracts people to sports. There's a clear winner, there's a clear loser, and there's a clear set of rules that need to be enforced. When you start letting things go, even small things that are outside of the game, for example, security and all this stuff, it leads to things just piling on top of each other, and eventually it creates this like viral, like universal, like embarrassing situation for everyone involved.
Right, because nobody won that thing. Like, okay, I guess the Senegalese players and I guess fans from Senegal will be happy at the end of the day. But I feel like this doesn't reflect well on them at all, like in the world of football.
The
Like, I
manager
feel like,
even came out and apologized. Of course, it's much easier to apologize now that you've won,
of course.
and it makes you
course.
sound
Yeah.
like you're coming from.
Well, they probably expected they're gonna score the penalty and the game's gonna be over, right? So
Okay, you know what? That's a good thing to talk about now. Let's like try to keep it a bit more football oriented. What do you guys feel about Brahim Diaz's penalty? There's a rumor. I have an opinion on this that he missed on purpose.
Oh, it's stupid.
What do you guys
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not, bro. What do you mean? He was so upset by the way that they were behaving and everything. There's no way. If you're going to miss on purpose, you don't try and Panenka it. You just kick it out of bounds. You just turn your body and kick it to the side, right?
Yeah, you'd make
Like-
it obvious as well. It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense at all. At the end of the day, if the man is going up to go his top scorer, Golden Boot, take the award, and you're trying to claim this man's crying, he's fake crying, then he's doing a great job of it. You get put him in a movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I completely agree. I feel like it's coming from people that don't watch football, to be honest. And the only like evidence behind it is that apparently he always shoots with his left foot, like on pens,
Bro,
and he's with his right
please,
foot.
like-
no, I mean,
Like,
it's for
what
me-
kind of player is going to embarrass himself like that without making it clear at some point? You know,
Right,
either in the penalty take or like after he shoots it goes like this or high fives, like something. Like we've seen people miss penalties before. This is not like a new thing, you know.
Right, right.
Intentionally miss penalties.
Right. I mean, Karam and I'd like to get your opinion, Ahmed. How do you feel about the Panenka itself? Do you think it was like executed poorly? Was it a good Panenka?
It was a
Did
terrible
Mendy-
It's a
Panenka.
terrible.
Is it- okay.
It was a terrible Panenka. It was slow and it was low, which is like the
low,
two things you don't
and
want a
not
Panenka to
even-
be.
Not even center. It was kind of like off to the side to the point that like even if a keeper were to properly dive, I see a world they could save it with their foot. That's how bad it
Yeah.
is, you know?
It was very poor. At the end of the day, he's just a Madrid bottler, and that's what it is. That's
Okay,
all.
and then what do you think about the decision itself to Panenka it? Because right, so we've seen Panenka's obviously Zidane, the famous one, right, against Italy.
Yeah.
Panenka that obviously the ball hit it down the middle in the World Cup final, in
Yeah.
the penalty shootout. Like historically, there've been pens all the time. Perlo, right?
I hate Panenkas.
What do you think about Panenka-ing it in the last second? Yeah,
I honestly come from a position of if it was executed well, I can't hate
he's the
on it.
coldest.
I can't
He's
hate
the
on it.
coldest. He's the
But, like-
coldest of execution.
I hate Panenkas.
No, because
I hate them.
end of the day, I can't deal with a world that will. Now, if you're just like forget execution, think about the intention. People
Yeah, that's
that
what I mean.
praise Perlo's decision to execute it to execute it as a Panenka, or not even execute it, as like the intention of going for Panenka, and you praise that, and then you come and thrash Brahim Diaz. Now, what I will say is my problem with the Panenka, though, if I do want to have an issue with it, is given the context of the situation he did it in, it felt like he did it to spite the Senegalese players for walking off the pitch. He wanted to score a Panenka, celebrate in front of them, say something to them, shout at them. He wanted to prove a point, and that's the
Yeah,
problem.
in Arabic بده يبهدلهم. You know what I mean? He
Exactly.
wanted to embarrass them for walking off the pitch, and he fell for the rage bait, in my opinion.
He fell for
Right?
it.
He
In any other
100% fell for it.
context,
Yeah.
in other context, in my opinion, if they immediately got the pen, I think he can Panenka it, and it's the right, almost I would say the right decision to Panenka it, because historically it's known, and Emmy has talked about this, Dybala has talked about this, that in the last minute especially, there's so much pressure on Mendy to dive, it's unbelievable, right? So I actually think shooting it down the middle could have been a very like smart strategy in my opinion.
There's
But it's the
actually
fact that
this.
we've gone in and out
Mhm,
10 minutes later that Mendy's almost like
mhm.
he's almost not in the game, Mendy. Like Mendy is almost not even prepared to dive in a way. You know what I mean?
I think what I would argue is them walking off the pitch was somewhat a sign of accepting defeat. And with accepting defeat also takes
He
away
wasn't
the
in that.
pressure of needing to dive. You don't
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to dive if you believe you've already lost. You don't have that.
yeah,
In the other context, Lloris, for example, he has this pressure of feeling like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to lose the World Cup final. And that's why he dives. For Mendy, to be honest, I think he could have stood in the middle just to tell them, I don't believe that it was a penalty. Screw you guys. Like he could have
yeah.
done it for that
Absolutely.
sake. There's too many possibilities for Brahim Diaz to decide that, that was the right decision in the moment. What I was just basically opening up my statement with is I think most people criticizing Brahim Diaz criticize the fact he went for a Panenka period in a AFCON final. I don't disagree with that. I think with the additional context, now I disagree with the Panenka, which I believe Amr kind of like added on.
My thing
Right.
is like
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know the technical details of like a Panenka and how difficult it is to necessarily save. I mean, obviously, it has to do a lot with how well the Panenka is executed. Like, we talked about Benzema's Panenka where he hits it like just at the top of the goal. Like, obviously, that's going to be extremely difficult to save. So I don't mind it if you truly believe in the moment that it is the right decision and is the decision that's going to lead to the best outcome. But at the end of the day, a goal is a goal for me. So I think doing anything just to be like fancy or to spite someone, like Karam was saying, or just to be like, oh, look how cold I am. I did something risky and it paid off. At the end of the day, it's not just about you, it's about the entire team. It's a team sport. And especially in this situation, you should just go for the highest conversion opportunity. And obviously, that's not what he did.
What I will say again is this kind of moving on almost like right after the penalty. It was also very weird to see the Moroccan manager Regraoui go up
Yeah,
to Brahim
screaming.
Diaz and start shouting at him and start
He was almost like
him.
yeah.
He was fighting him. He was shouting at him. The players had to separate.
It was so
And I mean,
strange.
again, what type of like what are you showing as AFCON? Like what are you like Regraoui after the game said the manager, the Senegalese manager telling his players to walk off the pitch did not represent Africa correctly. I agree with that. Your players trying to steal the other opposition team's towel does not represent Africa correctly. You screaming at your player when it's 0-0 going into an extra time. You didn't lose. I swear. Had they lost, scream at the player. I don't care at that point. I still think it's unprofessional, but scream. It's 0-0. You're going into an extra time. You've accepted defeat. In that moment, Regawi accepted defeat. And I think he takes as much blame as Brahim Diaz in that moment. That's how I feel about it.
The towel thing is interesting because apparently I had seen a video where against Nigeria, they had literally like an official took away the guy's towel. It was so strange. Like I don't know what the rules are about this towel thing. Like, is it that they can't be by the goal side or like I'm not sure. It was very strange.
No, I think it's fine. I'm sure it's not an official. It's
Because
an official at the stadium that took it away. You know,
yeah,
it wasn't like
yeah,
it wasn't one of the four referees.
I don't know who took it away, but it was a guy in a
An
suit.
official. It was like an Egyptian or Moroccan official or some one of the two.
Maybe.
It might have been Moroccan.
But he looked like very like adamant about this towel not being there for some reason,
But
and
the
I don't
same
know the
bro, Ahmed, did you see the clip? 4 Moroccan ball boys chased the Senegalese player down trying to steal it. There's one Moroccan player, I forget his name, that was sitting on the side trying to block him getting the towel as if it was like a defending situation.
which I think is what we've been touching on, which is that the ref could not get control of the game, and essentially that just lost the whole thing, right? So rules had to be enforced, like you mentioned, and they were not being enforced, right?
It's like it's one thing for the ref. Yes, the ref could have played a role in, for example, the ball boy situation, and yes, the ref is the main person who's responsible for maintaining order on the pitch. But for things that are happening on the side of the pitch, in the stands, with the ball boys, he can't control all of it. He's focused on the game. There needs to be officials in place
He
that
has a
are
team.
actually right, but not just like other refs, like actual stadium officials.
Yeah,
Those are the people that
but guess
normally
what?
deal with like
Ahmed,
security and
Ahmed,
stuff
the
like that.
stadium officials in Morocco are Moroccan, and they were helping take away the towel.
But Morocco has never hosted a major tournament before. So, and they've never been in the final of a major tournament that they've hosted. And so they just don't know how to act in this situation. It's as clear as that. And it's not just because they're.
What I'd connect also back to the ref thing, that this is actually a more popular discussion throughout the entire AFCON tournament when we don't specifically focus on this. If you're talking about the quality of the players, even the players, at least if you consider the players playing in the Senegal team, the players playing in the Morocco team, have at least experienced like higher levels of football where they've experienced more high performance. These refs, it's well known, lots of these refs have not coached a half decent game in their lives. These are not good refs. They aren't high profile refs. It just is. They've never coached in the Premier League where there's big stadiums. This is way too big for the moment for lots of these people. And the reason why I bring this up is because this is a bigger question about the entire AFCON tournament, because we're not even just focusing about the game. In most of the games throughout this tournament, there hasn't been as much scandals as this final. But this refs, it's been a repeated problem. And I think it's built up because guess what? Senegal aren't just pissed off because of the ref of this final, I promise you. Throughout the entire tournament, the refs have been bad. So it's been a culmination of every single game, from the group stage all the way to the final, of both national teams being frustrated with the refs in front of them. And at that point, when you get to the final and you're so fed up, I truly believe that some part of them could have believed that genuine corruption was going on. Because
I'm sure.
how bad the refs are. But then at the same time, would you come out again if you actually believed corruption was going on? I don't know. You know what I mean? So,
and in Spain, you have situations where fans, especially in really intense games like El Clasico, are throwing things at the pitch, are like throwing like live animals at the pitch, or like dead animals, like actual animals at the pitch, right? In those situations, yeah, people are going to act down every situation. What do? They ban fans from the stadium. They've done that before. Like they just have like games where there are no fans involved at all, or they kick out certain people, or they stop the game. Like this is what you have to do in order to get to, because people, it's all about incentive systems, and people are going to do whatever the incentives allow them to do. So yeah, if it helps their team to act like hooligans and chase down the Senegalese player, then they're going to do that, and someone has to stop them.
Agreed.
Right.
Also, good goal by Senegal in extra time. Can't lie.
It was a great goal.
Let's go just twatted the Dolphins.
Especially because I feel bad because Bono was so good throughout.
Oh, Bono was unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable.
That's the other thing. Overall, it was such a good game, and it's such a shame for it to end like that. Even though it was 0-0, it's like the amount of missed chances and opportunity. It was like still a good game, as good as a 0-0 game.
I realized Zazuli, still the same guy that was at Barcelona. That guy has no end product.
Yeah,
that guy's just
some players. They just never change.
It's funny though. It's like, dude, you can do all this and you can't just put the ball in the net like inside this. Like,
yeah. I don't know if there's much else to say about that game. It's kind of, I feel it's just a disappointment.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, at the very least, it gave us something to talk about, and it really is the gift that keeps on giving, because we end up. AFCON every year has like at least one or two viral moments that catch everyone's attention.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to the next one.
It's an international tournament that happens every 2 years, contrary to lots of other ones. So now we get to have these moments very often.
Right. Okay. Let's take a break here, and then we can come back and talk about the Barca game.
All right. So welcome back, and now we'll get back into Barcelona. Pretty sad game. I don't know how much there is to say. All I know is I hate VAR.
Hate Gilmanzano.
Hey, Gilmanzano. You know what?
Oh my God, he was the ref. I didn't get to watch the game, but knowing that he's the ref answers all my questions.
Bro, he went to the VAR screen and then just wouldn't give things. Like, how do you go to the screen and then not give it?
Yeah, that never happens.
What I'll also say, because of course I was watching the game live, and after the game, De Jong said something that, like, for some reason really pleased me to hear him say about Gilmanzano. And he said, and I swear I've always felt this, and it's why I have so much hatred for him. He says he looks at you. I forget what he
Down.
said exactly, but something he looks down
Looks
on you.
down on you. Yeah, he thinks he's
He looks
better
down. He looks at you as if like he doesn't even want to hear you. He's not a ref there. He's a dictator.
And
Yeah.
you're talking to De Jong's our captain, so he's
Right.
actually supposed to be the one that communicates with the ref.
Right.
It's just
I mean, there's one thing between like commanding authority on the pitch, and then it's a whole nother thing to like belittle the players, right? Like that's just
yeah. He just acts, brother. I'm telling you, you don't get enough bread to move like that compared to these other. You know what I'm saying? Like,
How
look
much
at-
do refs get paid? Do you guys know in La Liga?
Yeah, one time read it's like around 200K a year, 200 like for
That's
the
pretty
top
good for Europe, yeah.
Ramadan and stuff. No, it's good. It's great.
Mm.
But like at the same time, like you're looking at Dion.
Not the players that make millions of euros, yeah.
I
We
mean, like,
definitely
dude, my opinion about. I mean, again, didn't watch. I only seen like highlights and clips afterwards. I had not watched the game. Stat wise, I feel like we have nothing to worry about. I mean, what we got like 3 goals chalked off. Hit the
Would you
word.
like me to read them out? Would you like me to read out
Go
some
on,
stats?
go on, go on, go
Yeah.
on.
This credit to Yusuf, our cousin. He actually posted this on his story, so I took a screenshot. Expected goals for us 3.63, Real Sociedad 1.01. Barcelona 73% possession, Real Sociedad 27. 25 shots Barcelona, 8 shots Real Sociedad, 9 shots on target Barcelona, 6 for Real Sociedad, 7 big chances Barcelona, 3 Real Sociedad. And by the way, the shots on target don't count 6 probably I think posts we hit throughout the game. We have that Kunde chance that really hurt a lot. I will say one thing. I want to give credit out to Cancelo's cameo. He had a very, 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 very strong cameo. He was the pre-assist for the Limines cross. And he also was the one that crossed it to Kunde for that crossbar that felt like it should have gone in. I don't think, like, I don't know. I don't think there's too much to worry about going forward, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think this doesn't say anything about our season or our current form. Nothing that directly worries me. But Amr, do you want to see Araujo back in the lineup after this game?
I'm good, man. I never want to see him in the lineup. But what I would say is that I think, like you basically said it, right? Like it sounds like pretty much this is in line with our performances. We had the best run that we had, 11 wins in a row since 2015. Like that was our best run since 2015.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's obviously based on the performance. It's not going to stop. Obviously, Anoeta, Real Sociedad away, we lost there last year. It's just always something happens.
It's always a difficult game, and we never play the result will be kind of similar to this last game, but we'll never play nearly this well.
Right.
Like, we'll deserve to lose typically.
I guess just the biggest concern is like the reality, which is that Madrid are now a point off us. Right? They had beaten Levante, and the point is like always manageable, right? So that's I would say the only piece to worry about. It is kind of funny that this is like the one game Rafinha doesn't play, and then we lose. But
I was gonna ask about that. Like, I would have liked to see Rashford play this game if Rafinha isn't playing, so that we can have a little bit more width on the wings.
Right, and I guess he came on and he scored, right? So there is reasoning behind that, yeah.
If I'm gonna be honest, I just can't have any issues with this game because I think it worked out. Like that's the best way I can explain it. Like it worked out. We played Fermin and Olmo together, and they played well. Fermin had a disallowed goal. It was a beautiful one as well. It was just and beautiful.
This close. You know, like I saw the VAR image. It was like not even a stud. It was like half a stud. And for me, technology is not. I'm 100% sure there's a margin of error on this technology. So there's no way you're telling me that's offside. The offside rule is that he's either in front of the player, or when you're not offside is when you're behind that player, or you're in line. That's absolutely in line with the player.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
There's no world.
Yeah, there's just I think the issue with technology being introduced in this way, and we've talked about it before, is that you have to draw the line somewhere. So it's like, okay, that's where you draw half a stud. Yeah. No, but that's the thing. Like, you can't time it. There definitely is a margin of error, and there's definitely part of it is like timing too, because you have to take the defensive line and where the player is relative to the defensive line when the ball leaves the passer's foot. when the pass happens, which that's where the margin of error, in my opinion, is, right? Because you can't time that exactly. I
Yeah.
think if you were to just like stop the picture in real time, just like look down the line, I believe that can be pretty accurate. But knowing when to stop the play, that's the part where
Yeah, I know that they use some type of technology to see like the vibrations on the ball, but even then, it's like what does that have to do with when it leaves his foot and that margin of error?
Right.
right.
I don't think there's much else to say about the game. There's other big news about Dro.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
he's leaving.
How'd you guys feel about that? And just the general theme of Barcelona, like youngsters leaving, not right now, but just in general. Is it?
Yeah, man. I mean, look. Okay, so this is my thing. Is that some people are calling him like Elias Moriba, right? Which
Mm,
and also even Mark Gui at the time, where it's like I don't think it's to that level because at least these guys were getting much more minutes than Dro.
they were, yeah.
We were, right? And obviously, in front of Dro is Fermin, Olmo, even like Rooney. You could argue plays in like he could play in the 10, or like when Rooney needs to get minutes, Lamine goes into the 10, and so on. So like I understand it, but I think I feel the same sentiment as like Flick, where it's like it's just so disappointing. Because I mean, kind of we said it from the very first like touch that he had that you see something in him, right? Like I actually really liked his camera.
Very raw. You know, he's just he's
Yeah.
a smaller guy, and I don't think he's gonna go. I mean, my kind of question to you is also, you're going to PSG. Are you gonna start there?
By the way,
I
you
mean,
don't
it's
play with a 10.
money to me. I don't know about you. You're
Yeah.
making it sound like it's a playing time thing. I start to feel like it's money. They're paying him 10 times more than we're gonna pay him. We're just not willing to do that. I'm starting to think it's money.
I
It
mean,
might
it
be,
probably
and
is.
that would be the correlation with Mariba. But I do think that, like, at the very least, if you're getting minutes like Mariba is getting, then you see like potential at the club to make more money, even if it is about money, right? Because you get like we're not. Yeah, like maybe Barca is not going to pay them more unless he actually starts producing. To produce, he actually has to get minutes, and it becomes this whole thing where it's like it's not really in his control. So it's hard to blame him. You can't blame anyone for at the end of the day going after their own interests, even if it's financial.
Right,
Obviously,
and
from like a
he's
fan
playing his release
perspective,
clause, right? He's playing his
right?
release clause, which is technically put by us, but it just really does hurt when Dro was actually in juvenile B
That's
when Flick
exactly what I was gonna
when,
say. This is
when
why you
Flick
have a small release clause, mate, because we brought you from Juvenile B into the first team, and you got to start for Barcelona this season when you used to be in Barcelona. You started the season Juvenile B. You
and
weren't
then
in
you go
Juvenile A.
juvenile B, it goes juvenile A, and then Barca B, and then Barca A. So
You
he's not
brought him
even.
to Juvenile B this season, and he got to start for FC Barcelona. I don't care who you are. You sit down at least. Listen, Mark Huey, at least we saw a year of him waiting. This guy has been promoted, what, 3 months ago?
Yeah.
When did you guys start hearing about Joe? When did he
It's
start?
just tough. It's tough for me to really like judge anyone for at the end of the day going after the bag because it's a job to them at the end of the day, right? They need to support themselves.
18. 18
I
at
know, I know.
matter.
I
Yeah.
just think the other thing is from a club perspective, I think this is a good problem to have. How many clubs talk about this exact problem this often where it's like we have this incredible young player and now because there are other young or semi-young players ahead of him in the lineup that are also Barca products, we don't have a place for him or we have to wait to give him a place and so he decides to leave. Like that's a good problem to have at the end of the day. It means that we have, I mean, what sets Barca apart is the La Masia and the schooling system, and it just shows that it's continuing to work. So that's like a positive, if you want
Hey
to
man,
look
Yeah.
at it
all,
that
all
way.
I'm gonna say to Dro, yeah, I know you're watching this, Dro, is that Elias Moriba,
Where
Mark
the
Gui,
fuck is? Oh, sorry. Cut
yo,
that out. Where is that guy now? Leipzig or something? Or he
Leipzig
was at Leipzig.
on loan. He went Getafe
Yeah,
on loan. He's a bum. Okay,
yeah,
Mark
And
Gui, rotten in the D team of Chelsea. He probably doesn't have a place in the
yeah,
locker room.
he trains as
Right.
Raheem Sterling, fam.
Right.
yeah.
Arnau Tenyas. This guy was meant to be the next coming of Valdez, and I don't even know where he is right now. I think he's at some La Liga side, right? So definitely, the grass is not always greener. Okay, he can get
Yeah,
back.
these players are.
Hey, bro, he's not starting for PSG. You're going there only for money. Or you think
Yeah,
you're joking at this point, bro? This goes into another concept of what we already talked about, which is not what we've already talked about. We're gonna move into, which is even the whole idea of, we always talk about how much teams spend on money and stuff like that. But one of the biggest things that take away money from a club is wages, and the lack of wage structure at some of these clubs are disgusting.
Oh.
There's even like Gay
You're
at
right,
Man City.
Oh,
Wow. Let's go. All right. Let's talk about it.
what a
Gay
segue.
at Man City. Donnarumma at Man City. All these wages are disgusting, bro.
Bears.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, okay, so you guys, Gehi is going to make 300K a week at Manchester City. That is
300,000
the news that is broken.
British pounds.
Pounds. And so that would put him you said the top 5 in Premier League.
At least.
In the Premier
At
League,
least,
and
yeah.
one of the top paid players in the world. So yeah, we were kind of like chatting about this before the pod. So I was actually talking to a friend yesterday. I was telling you guys I was talking to a friend yesterday. We were talking about baseball, and I don't watch a ton of baseball, but what I do know is that the Dodgers have won back-to-back World Series. There's no salary cap in baseball, unlike other U.S. sports, and they just re-signed this guy Kyle Tucker to some obscene number. I don't want to like pull a number out, but I'm pretty sure it was somewhere around the like $60 million mark. Let me double check.
Yeah, that
real
now we're
quick.
talking about like the Semenyo type of signing.
Yeah, $60 million average annual salary, 4 years, $240 million. Anyway, that is a ton to pay for a very average player, but the Dodgers have money to spend. Their owner, Mark Tatum, who also now is the majority owner in the Lakers, does not value money, I think, and what he values is winning. And so they just paid him so that no one else could have him.
So okay, there's a few things here that we can talk about. One perspective is that about Man City's spending habits and whether or not they need Mark Gahey. Because Mark Gahey, okay, the example that you drawn is not exactly the same, right? Because Man City are desperate for a defender, right? They're desperate for a defender.
You know, Rico Lewis and Nico Riley, that's running the defense.
And the other against Man U, there was a brother I'd never heard of. He was playing center back. I've genuinely never heard of the guy, right? So okay, so I guess from that perspective, they absolutely need a center back. He's out of contract in the summer, and Liverpool are also desperate to have him, right? And so apparently so are Bayern, right? 20 million. And then, so there's a conversation that we can have about, oh my God, City spend right. They spend their money right. Okay, mate. But then you also spend him 300 grand a week. Or like Holland, for example, oh, they paid 40 million only, and then you pay him 500 grand a week. Or then, and so on. And you're replacing players that you'd already different conversation, right? So back to the positives for City. Why did they spend this much, right? He's out of contract in the summer. They only spent 20 million pounds, right? Why did they pay him extra? Because similar to when somebody runs down his contract, they obviously reward the player or are able to pay the player more because they don't have to spend it on a transfer fee, right? That's quite common. You see it with Mbappe, with Alaba. When these guys run down their contracts, you can spend much more money on them, and this obviously helps in negotiations and so on. He's, you could argue, in the prime of his career, if not, especially with how footballers have been aging, even you could say his best years are still to come, even at this level.
Yeah.
He's a starter for England. And obviously, we know there's a premium on English homegrown players in the Premier League, right? So like Gallagher.
Just in terms of income coming in later, yeah, because
coming in later, and also apparently there's like a quota for like homegrown players, so they pay extra. Solanke, apparently that's why Spurs spend so much on him and so on. So those are all the reasons why they were able to, and they did, I think, pay premium. But then the question becomes, how much do you think Mark Guehi would be worth if he had like 3 years left on his contract? Right. Obviously, it's more than 20 million, right? It's maybe like, but what number would you guys give Mark Guehi? Like,
I would probably
if you had to put a transfer fee on him.
Put a transfer fee, probably looking around 60.
Right.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Right. 60 million. And would you pay a 60 million pound player 300 grand a week? Hell no. And the difference between the 20 million and the 60 million is 40, right? So you're paying 40.
20 million for 6 months left on your contract is actually a disgusting amount. Liverpool wanted him; they just couldn't do the same thing. They knew that 20 million for 6 months was too much.
But this is the part that like I think is interesting to me at least. When like how much do you think Liverpool was willing to pay him?
I'm sure he's probably the captain of Palace. He's probably on like 100 grand maybe. I think Liverpool are probably willing to double that, up to 200 grand.
Yeah, so but then like you're saying but then Man City tripled it. So why not pay him like 220, 230, 240?
According to this reports, Gehi at Crystal Palace was making 2.6 million annually. He'll now be making 16.
Whoa. 2.6 million is well lower than 106K. That's 2.6 divided by 52. 50K a week.
Yeah, that wouldn't
And that's what I'm saying. Like, let's say Liverpool is willing to double it to 100K. Why is Man City deciding to pay them 300K? I feel like it's just like more money than they know how to do with some of these clubs, and I think that's kind of what's hurting the sport. Like, I have no problem with because you can't have a salary cap in the Premier League. It just can't happen because there's like they're not going for parity. There's regulation. There's relegation. There are like legacy teams, and it's just not how soccer works in general. Parity is just not a thing. There's no draft, whatever.
And by the way, I'd argue parity might also hurt, like especially the Premier League.
Yeah. I'm not arguing for parity or a salary cap, but I have no problem. So I have no problem with teams like let's say the top, let's say 4 teams or top few teams, whatever, competing over the services of a top like well thought after English player, right? But it just doesn't seem like that's what's happening. It was just kind of like they just threw the money at him. And it's like, okay, now you have no other choice. It's one thing to be in a bidding war, and it's one thing to just blow everyone else out of the water.
Right.
And why?
I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like Guehi just leveraged the fact that he was bound for Liverpool. I think he was almost like he had already given them his word and so on and so forth. And I think he just abused that, in my opinion.
Right. So then Man City was like, okay, I don't even want to worry about this. Here's more money than you can say no to, and that's it.
Right.
You know?
Right. I mean, look. For me, I rate Guehi so highly. I have him in fantasy, dude. This guy gets me so many points. Like he's class.
Mm-hmm.
Right? No, but he's actually a starter for England. Like it's hard to find a player at that age nowadays that's already like you could argue like at the international level and as a starter. Yeah. So, and I think that is a part that I almost respect about City, which is that if they see a player and he fits, they just go for it, right? But then the part that I disagree with City, or where I think that they're overrated when it comes to like this business that people at 5% that they all praise him for, right? Is that, for example, they essentially that Semenyo signing for me is them replacing Marmoush. Right?
Yeah. They're replacing a player they got they just bought.
Even Marmoush makes 295K a week. Okay.
Insane.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, exactly. Makes 295K a week, right behind Bernardo Silva at 300K. They have Holland at 525 a week, 525K. So
and Mark Guehi's gonna be at 300 grand.
Yeah, Mark Guehi's gonna be, and now this doesn't look good for Manchester United, but it's next to most Mohamed Salah at 400, Casemiro at 350, Van Dijk at 350, and Raheem Sterling at 325. He's still at Chelsea.
He's alive.
I think Man City, they get a lot of kudos and like, oh, they're not actually like really, ruining the game because they'll go for players that are like young and up and coming and they see potential, and then the transfer fees they pay are not as crazy as like let's say PSG has paid in the past. But salary wise, I think that's the part that they get away with.
Ahmed Khosanov and like Victor Reis, those two are by themselves. Victor Reis and Khosanov are like 80 million.
But why? This is a thing. Like
you know. Okay, I think this is a bit extreme because I rate Mark Guehi very highly, but it does remind me a lot of what they did with Calvin Phillips. Right, Calvin Phillips was wanted from when they were trying to get him from Leeds, but I would say almost all the top 6. Right,
Menu is the great example of this.
Right, and he was a starter for England. Right, he was next to Declan Rice and everyone. He was highly rated, and then he just vanished at Man City, right? He was basically paid a crap ton of money just so he wouldn't go to somewhere else. and then essentially they bought Reinders in right now, and even Nico Gonzalez. They bought Nico Gonzalez for like 60 million, dude. How
Yeah.
does no
Yeah,
one talk
yeah.
like
They've been moving mad, to be
right?
honest. But I don't
But
I
then
don't
they do
understand the salary
solid.
thing.
But Ahmed, even Donnarumma makes I think 250K a week as a goalkeeper, and
Okay,
that
can you
compared to
guys
other
just
goalkeepers in the league
explain
is like double.
something to me? Can you explain something to me? Once you buy a player from a club, let's say they have like players that they bought in the past that have had contracts with clubs, you have to pay a transfer fee, right?
Mhm.
At that point, why throw money at the player? Like why? Like why pay them 10 times what they were making before?
You
Why?
also need to get the player's approval. It's not like a trade
Okay,
deal.
but you don't need I don't think you need to pay a player 10 times the money they were making to come play for Manchester City back when they were playing at
My
Leipzig or
I'm
whatever.
my
surprised if Gay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
I
on.
was gonna say my perspective, especially with how I see Man City work on this very very like a smart business, right? I think they have like set accountants that will value you on their wage structure, and then they want to fit you within that wage structure so that dressing
Mm.
room stays intact.
It's like when you go to yeah, it's like when you go to a company and then they can't pay you more than someone
Right,
at like
right.
your level.
So
Like
they're
there's a
like,
range,
so
yeah.
I'm so where he's like, I'm how old is he? Like 26 or something, 27. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know.
27, I think.
In my prime, I'm a starter for England. I'm prem proven.
25. He's 25.
Mhm.
I think we just lost Amr.
We might have just lost to Amr. But I'll continue on his point. We're saying, I
His
think,
picture is stuck. It's so funny.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. The main point is that once you continuously keep paying players at such ridiculous levels, you have to keep following suit. And Barcelona even got into this trap the way we paid De Jong, the way we paid Lewandowski, paid these people. Now we've had to adjust and drop deeper and like pay less. And what happens in these scenarios, even Ahmed, it's even a concept about making sure the player cannot get tempted by another club. Okay. When I pay a player a lot, it also means other clubs can't tempt him away from us.
That's true. That's true. I also think that part of it though that maybe they don't consider, they've had a lot of flops recently, at least flops at like the level that a team competing for the Premier League and every title expects. But when a player gets paid this much money, I'm just thinking about it like what would I think if tomorrow someone paid me 10 times what I make now? I probably would feel like all right, I've made it, and I probably would lose a ton of motivation,
No,
right?
but like I guess, but you got to think about it. Like, what happens if you go from like 3 million a year to like to 20 million a year? Like, it's probably like either way. Like, it's I think it's a general concept. Like, you probably are you gonna lose more motivation from 3 to 20? You think?
Yeah,
Like
that's
either
six
way, you're making
times.
money. Yeah, but either way, you're making like enough money to be like
Yeah,
I'm comfortable.
right. I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting like I guess I wish I could see into their like business structure and see why they do the things that they do. But at the end of the day, when it comes to like the impact on football, I do think that it's having like this negative impact where they're hoarding players, and it just cannot like it must be so frustrating for every other prem team to see this happen over and over again. Any young like there have been players that have like picked other teams over Man City, but it's quite rare. And any young and up and coming player where they can just throw a ton of money, more money than they've ever seen before at them, it just kind of kills the negotiations right
I
there.
do want to emphasize just one last time that the general world football and football fans and the ones you see on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it, is people look too much at the amount teams spend on transfer fees and don't realize you're spending more on the wages.
You definitely are,
Barcelona,
yeah.
there's a point where Barcelona every year was paying out like 200 million in wages.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is more than most transfer windows for a lot of teams. So
Yeah.
end of the day, don't just look at that, and not just that. Look at revenue. Barcelona has double, if not, I think it's more than double Man City's revenue as a football club in terms of the amount of
Yeah.
revenue you bring in. So it's like that's why they're ruining football.
Mm-hmm.
They're ruining football because they can spend at wages that don't make sense. Barcelona would not be able to just drop 20 million and give 300K to a Mark Guehi. We can't.
Right. And a lot of people will say, I hear this a lot in like NBA circles, or even like this was a topic of conversations with some like movie production costs and stuff like that, where it's like as a fan, as a consumer of the sport, why do you care so much about how much a team is spending? And because other than it having like actual impacts on how competitive the sport is, the other thing is just we've seen what happens when your team is ill managed, and Barcelona is not the first team to suffer from ill management or having to like you know go from like spending a ton of money. Like even Everton, one of your other teams, went from spending a ton of money and just putting all their eggs in one basket for a couple seasons and it failing, and then them actually going backwards.
But
This is what happens when you ill
only
manage your team.
fail. You can only fail if you're backed by an investor or backed by. Of course, Barcelona. It's easier to fail when you're backed by fans. How hard is it to fail when you're
Right,
backed
right,
by a nation? When you're
right.
backed by a country?
Yeah, yeah. They're not.
Now,
It'll be
like
fun.
we care because we understand that like we almost understand that if we ill managed ourselves, we would finish as a club and cease to exist. The difference is Man City can be ill managed, be treated horribly, make horrible decisions, and the next transfer window they'll come back to sign some 50 million guy from Brazil we'll never hear about again.
One thing I'll tell you about uh, some groups of people, let's say, is that they can get bored very quickly. You never know when they'll be done with. Maybe it won't happen because of how big of a just organization Manchester City is, but you never know. They might be like, "Oh, we're done here," and then leave you holding the check, right?
Yeah, I mean, if that were to happen, they would cease to exist.
Yeah,
Guess what? No one can pay those wages. No
right.
one.
Yeah, exactly.
They're probably spending 200 million a year on wages. I would
It's
assume
insane.
across the table. I mean, my Man City friend, when I was arguing with him about this, his one reply was, "When you pay for the Ferran Torres money first, then you can talk about our finances." They actually haven't fully paid off Ferran Torres yet.
Money talks, huh?
Yeah. So
Literally.
right now, I can't lie. Well, we
Yeah.
still owe money for Ferran Bloody Torres, who, by the way, just captained us for how long he's been here.
Yeah.
Okay, and now we're still paying him off. Maybe we're not in a position, to criticize.
No,
But
definitely not. I don't ever want to talk about Barca's finances again.
wallah, there was a period where we became accountants and
Yeah,
finance
for real.
that,
You
bro.
had to because it was like an existential crisis, you
We
know.
had to figure out if we had enough money to like, like, continue running as a football club.
Yeah, exactly.
Like financial fair play. There's a 1-to-1 rule, but also 50% of wages come up if you sell a player. You get 50% back, and then you do this, and then you can't register him and that.
Right,
Although
right.
they had me refreshing the La Liga page to see if we
Dude, our
re-registered the
former
player.
president literally went to jail. Like that's how bad the situation was. I think we
Yeah,
were
and his vice
justified to
president,
care.
our president went to jail. Then his vice president became our president, and then put us in financial turmoil. Yeah,
Yeah, that was probably a mistake looking back at it.
yeah. It took he took his second-hand man instead of his running back. Oh, all right. I feel like that is the end of the pod.
Yeah, it kind of devolved, so I
Can I
think we
be really
should.
honest?
Yeah,
This pod has had such little like less football analysis and been so much just like criticizing people's
yeah. It's like
behaviors
philosophy and
and like spending
sociology.
habits, dude.
Yeah.
We look like the ultimate bag watchers.
We had Aber quit on us halfway
Yeah,
through because we
we
stopped
look
paying him.
we absolutely look like the biggest money watchers of all time. Like we're just
This
hating.
is what happens when you support Barcelona through the Luke De Jong years,
Yeah,
you
but we
know.
just sound like we're hating on Mark Gahey because he got the bag.
Yeah. Like I said, I can't. At least I said, like, you can't blame him for going
I
after his
swear I'll
money.
hate on him for that. 16 million as a center back at 25.
Good for him, man. Good for him.
I hope he breaks his leg.
Oh
No,
God.
it's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke.
All right, maybe we should end it there before
Listen.
things get any.
Ruben Diaz on fantasy, and I hope Gahey helps him out to get clean sheets. I have no hatred towards him. If Gahey replaces Ruben Diaz's starting lineup, then we'll have other discussions. Thank you guys for listening. This has been Ahmed. It's been Karam. Thank you for watching. Bosh. Peace. Goodbye.